excuse me, this is number 13 out of the review session as well. And it says 54% of U.S. adults have very little confidence in newspapers. You randomly select 10 U.S. adults. Find the probability that the number of U.S. adults who have little confidence in newspapers, let's do part A first, is exactly 5. Okay, so remember, my N in this case is 10 because we've chosen 10 U.S. adults. Our probability P is 0.54, and my X value is the number of adults that we're trying to choose, which in this case is going to be 5. Okay, so this is a binomial probability, so I'm going to use my binomial PDF because I'm going to find the probability of finding exactly 5. And remember, when I do this, the way I'm going to enter in my numbers is going to be N, P, and then X, okay? So I'm going to say binomial PDF, my N is 10, my probability is 0.54, and my X value is going to be 5. And the directions here are telling us to round this to 3 decimal places. So let me take my calculator, I'm going to go second vars, and I'm going to go to right here where it says part A towards the bottom, binomial PDF. And if you notice, it's the number of trials, P, and the X, right? So we said number of trials was 10, comma, probability was 0.54, comma, my X value was 5. I'm going to close this off. And to 3 decimal places, I'm coming up with 0.238. So here, my answer is going to be 0.238, okay? Now, let's do part B. Part B says at least 6. So think of what does that mean? At least 6. It means X is going to be bigger than or equal to 6, which means we could have 6, or we could have 7, or we could have 8, or we could have 9, or we could have all 10. Now, I know how I could do each of these. I could do each of these like I did for part A and do it, looks like 5 times, once for 6, once for 7, one for 8, one for 9, one for 10, and then add them all up, right? Now, remember we could also say if I want to find the probability that X is bigger than or equal to 6, that's saying the same thing as, why don't we find 1 minus the probability that X is less than or equal to 5. Now, I can do this part on my calculator using the binomial, I didn't even spell that right, did I? Binomial CDF. Now, remember what C stands for. C stands for cumulative, means to add them all up, right? So when I do this, I'm still going to use my 10, my 0.54, and my 5. What this is saying is let's take all the values from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and add them all up. That's what this feature allows me to do. And then I'm going to do 1 minus that, and that'll leave me with what we were looking for, okay? So I'm going to do this again on my calculator. I'm going to go second in vars. Now I'm going to choose part B, binomial CDF, still 10, comma, still 0.54, comma, the number 5, oops, too many parentheses there, okay, hit equals. So I'm coming up with that. Now I need to do 1 minus my answer. 1 minus my answer, second, the little negative, because you look right here at the bottom, there's that answer button. And I'm coming up with 0.478. So for part B, my answer is going to be 0.478. Now remember, we already did the 1 minus it, right? And that's what this part here would be. Now there is a point C, or part C, I'm sorry. And part C says less than 4. Less than 4 is the same thing as saying X is less than or equal to 3, okay? So remember, how do I find less than or equal to 3? That's the same thing as saying the probability of 0, the probability of 1, the probability of 2, and the probability of 3 and add them all up. This is when I can use, again, my binomial CDF, still with my n being 10, my probability being 0.54, and my x is 3. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to do this again on my calculator. Clear that out. Second in vars. I'm going to go to binomial CDF with 10, 0.54, 3. Hit enter. And to 3 decimal places, I'm coming up with 0.114. So 0.114.